Okay, there is an issue we have to face, and that issue is that we don't have a quorum at the present moment, so I'll suspend the council meeting for 5 minutes to see if we get a quorum. 15 minutes to see if we get a quorum, and we'll be back. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about the delay. We now have a quorum. We'll go back to the beginning. Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of the country and as traditional custodians of the land. We respect their ancestors, elders and young people and recognise their continuous connections to land, waters and communities across the country. Apologies, requests, leave of absence and requests to attend by electronic means. Tonight we have approved leave of absence for Councillor Poulton and Councillor Simbendorfer, and Councillor Danny Lowe is an apology, he's unwell. Any conflicts of interest, councillors? No? Do I have a motion for the minutes for the previous council meeting? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Hall. No debate, no discussion. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. There's no questions, Mr. CEO? No petitions? No delegates' reports. Item 8.1, Audit and Risk Committee Charter Review. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As recommended.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As everyone knows, we have an Audit and Risk Committee, which consists of two councillors, myself and Councillor Chamberlain at the moment, and a number of independent members. The Audit and Risk Committee looks after all sorts of risks, reviews financial statements, reviews reports from the internal audit and a number of other functions to make sure that and advises the council to make sure that the organization runs smoothly and identifies its risks and has appropriate controls to mitigate those internal risks. Audit committee is required to have a charter to set out how the independent members are engaged, how they're supposed to perform, what their responsibilities are. And we've had a reasonably good charter, and this review tightens up a few things around how the responsibilities of the independent members are described, how the hiring terms of the independent members work. No drastic changes. The only slight change, I would say, is or sort of one thing that is worth paying attention to is the requirement for the independent members to lodge an interest return. To determine whether they have a conflict of interest. That will be done on appointment and then annually, except for myself and Councillor Chamberlain. We as councillors lodge interest returns twice a year. So it will be a bit different from us, but for independent members, it will be once annually. Other than that, just tightening a few words and definitions around the function and the responsibilities of internal audit. I'm sorry, internal audit is next, 8.2. 8.1 is Audit and Risk Committee Charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, not much to add to that. As Councillor Quilty said, this is basically a housekeeping method. It needs to be reviewed regularly and just tidying up some of the language. But other than that, the bulk of the charter is as before, as it should be. It was appropriate before, it'll be appropriate going forward, I think. Thank you.
Other councillors? Councillor Quilty to close. Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda is item 8.2, Internal Audit Charter Review. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Quilty. Thank you. As recommended, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you. I've already touched on internal audit in the previous item. So Audit and Risk Committee reviews the reports of internal audit. Internal audit looks at not all, but various aspects of the operation and make sure that the risks are identified and addressed accordingly. Audit and internal audit is outsourced in this council, and audit and risk to maintain objectivity and independence. And there is a separate charter, which is a different document from Audit and Risk Committee charter. It has to do with the appointment of internal audit, the responsibilities of internal auditors, the objectivity, the scope of their work, etc. No drastic changes here. Just like Audit and Risk Committee charter, this internal audit charter was discussed at the recent Audit and Risk Committee meeting and has been approved has been endorsed to bring to council. And I'm fairly happy with it and recommend as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, as before, tidying up of the language. Internal audit reports back to the Audit and Risk Committee. It's part of their responsibility. And this is purely a housekeeping thing going forward. It's very similar to the previous document. Thank you.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Quilty to close? No? Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the review of single-use plastics policy. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hall and Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall.
Yes, this is an update to the existing council policy to better align our policy with the Environmental Protection Amendment Regulations 2022. I don't see any real problems with the changes. I do think it's important to have this policy and for council to lead where they can in limiting our community's use of single-use plastics. It's better for the environment, waterways, and helps limits the what goes into landfill. I'm old enough to remember not having these plastics and we did just fine. So no one's perfect, so it'll take a little bit of time probably with some to find different ways in how we move forward without using the single-use plastics. Wodonga has had this policy for I think 4 years now, and the policy tonight is just about updating the existing one that will bring it in line with state government's single-use plastic ban. So put that forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, in some respects this policy is a duplicate of the state single-use plastics policy. The laws exist already in the state government. There's an argument, or has been an argument, that this policy wouldn't necessarily be required given the fact that those laws already exist. Having said that, prior to those laws coming up to this level, we had this policy, and it was brought together in conjunction with Albury City as part of our two cities, one community discussions. And it provides a useful tool for our staff when people in particular are using Wodonga Council facilities, that they can show them this policy and ensure that they comply with it within those regulations. So it's worthwhile maintaining the policy, even though the state laws basically cover it already. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you. So my vote, I will be voting in support of this policy. My vote will be, tonight will be no reflection on what I think about the single-use law that we have from the state. This policy helps us to function within the legal requirements of the state. As it was explained to me earlier today at the briefing, we as a council have a policy of how single-use plastic is not handled on our premises. We give this policy to anybody who uses our premises, and make sure that we are in line and protected from any breaches of the state law. This is how I understand it. It is important for us to have this policy, not probably not necessary, not strictly necessary. However, it does not make the life of council staff, as I've been told, difficult, and it just provides this necessary level of protection and order and regulation for us. Councillor Hall, I'm also old enough to remember that we not having plastic bags. In my country, women had a scrunched up bag that looked like a stretchy fishing net that women kept in their purse. The meat on the counters was displayed without any plastic, and good or bad, yeah, people managed. These days, it's not quite the same. A lot of things that we buy is wrapped in plastic, but I guess it's a discussion for another time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Hall to close. I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is 8.4, proposed membership to the Cities Power Partnership Program. Do I have a motion? This matter will lapse without a motion. I have a motion. I have a motion from Councillor Chamberlain that we do nothing. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Quilty. Councillor Chamberlain. Does do nothing mean do not apply for membership? Councillor Chamberlain.
As you can see, no one was real keen to put their hand up about this one and see what's going on. I don't have an issue with the programs that Wodonga Council is going ahead with and will continue to go ahead with. Our renewable energy policy, our sustainable transport, work together and influence policies. The actions that were required from this, we're already doing, and we will continue to do, and I think we will continue to improve our sustainability environmentally on a number of things. The bit that I'm a bit iffy about is signing up to a program which may be used to leverage us in the future and leverage council in the future to head us down in areas that we may not wish to go. I believe that we can go ahead with these things. We can be efficient, effective, sustainable and environmentally aware without necessarily signing up to this sort of program. That's my reason for saying no.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Quilty. Councillor Hall.
Look, I support what Councillor Chamberlain has said. This was brought up in November last year and was kicked along the road till now, and we're dealing with it now. And I didn't support it back then. I don't support it tonight. Being a member of the City Power Partnership Program, you know, as Councillor Chamberlain said, we already meet many of the things put forward, many of the items put forward, and we will continue to do the best policy within our financial ability, but also I don't think we should need to be locked into an organisation. I think we need to be a bit more flexible on where we go forward with this. You know, that it does has some good policies, as I said, from which we are doing. Yes, I don't believe we need to be locked in and into a. Apparently, there are 145 council members across Australia. There's 537 councils in Australia, so that would be 27% of all councils. Really, in the scheme of things, 27% is not a huge amount. Obviously, there's other councils that may feel the same way as we do. You can source a lot of the information that you get provided with the partnership from many other sources. And I think I'd like to have the freedom to be able to you know, our council to be able to work the way we've been going. So, yeah, I won't be supporting it tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty, you're reserved.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, like other councillors, don't see the utility of joining this group for a number of reasons. The actions that come out of a prospective membership concern matters that have to do with renewable energy, with sustainable transport, and working together and influencing, such as having educational and behavior change programs, meetings, etc. We are doing a number of things here, and some of the things that we are not doing, we're working on, such as the transport strategy. There are educational programs that Council participates in, and we do a number of things that work towards sustainability and using our renewable energy. Honestly, the amount of councils that are a part of this program is limited, and I don't see how this membership can help us. We will any membership fees that we pay will be a strain, if any, on our budget, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is that we need to continue to work on our own sustainable transport strategy and continue to work on our situation. This partnership will not add any value, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Again, difficult decision to say no to this. Having said that, as I stated earlier, it's more my idea that it could become a point of influence and pressure upon future councils and this council. It doesn't appear to be at the minute, but that a lot of things seem to start that way and go towards pressure. We're already far exceeding what we're required to do to be a member of this, and I think we will continue to in the future. There's no way that any statement by us can be construed as any form of climate denial or anything else. This is all about, for me, reducing external influences that may not necessarily be productive in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I put that. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 8.5, review of the place naming policy. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain? As recommended. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall, Councillor Chamberlain.
This matter comes up due to the failure of us to put together the Place Name Advisory Committee. We didn't have enough public interest in that committee, which is a bit sad because I think the public should be involved heavily in what places are called within our city. So what this does is gives us a charter and another method of doing the work that that committee did previously. And I think accordingly, the disbandment of that committee was necessary, minor revisions, the staff and our consultation with the public on how we go forward with place names. We'll get the job done effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, look, while I was disappointed that the Places Naming Committee has been disbanded and the reasons behind that were considered and at this stage necessary for the council to move forward with legislative requirements, and as Councillor Chamberlain mentioned, was problematic in getting members to be part of the committee. For the future, the council is always a future council can always possibly look at revisiting a committee again. It's not like it's will never happen again, so it's always a possibility. So for the council office to move forward with the necessary requirements, I'll support the recommendation tonight. It's probably an easy way for us to go forward with still doing the requirements we have to adhere to. It's always something that can be revisited at another council's later stage.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
The only other comment I would make on this is to again reiterate that we need to get people involved. The community needs to suggest place names and add to the list that we have of appropriate people and things that we can name things after. We're talking about streets, parks, buildings, whatever, council assets. It's an important function and we need to take it seriously and bring the people with us. Thank you.
You, Councillor Chamberlain, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 8.6 is proposed park names. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hall, as recommended. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Quilty, Councillor Hall.
Yeah, I support the two park names that have been put forward in the report. This will go out for community feedback, so be interested to see if what comes back, if there's a support for it or if there's some changes to that. But I myself have no issues with them and I look forward to receiving this feedback if we do get any. The two park names had been brought up to our now disbanded Places Name Committee last year, but we never, there was never a decision made on it. But we did have a brief discussion and I think, well, at least one of them we were pretty much supported, which was the Elaine Mitchell Park. Elaine Mitchell was a woman of many talents and an awarded MOA for her services to literature. She was the author of the Brumby book series, which she created to encourage the younger generations to make a difference in their communities. She was an accomplished skier like her husband, a conservationist. Elaine Mitchell was also married to Thomas Mitchell, which is one of the major roads that go through Wodonga, to whom we've already had a well-known major road in Wodonga, and his accomplishments within our region, being a representative to the Victorian State Parliament for many years, was the first Australian to represent his country in the World Skiing competitions and achieving great heights in his achievements. He's also a Japanese POW in Changi. So, but to both of them, they're both their achievements in our region and what they've given to the community in as far as, books and a parliamentarian. I think Elaine Mitchell's a well-deserving person for the park that will be in the Leneva estate. The other one is the other park name is the Brigade Park. This is in a residential estate in Leneva as well. The road theme for the estate, many of the road, it's themed on CFA personnel who have passed. The naming of Brigade Park is probably fitting within that theme, whilst it could be seen as fairly bland, not a particular name or anything. I don't have an issue with that. I think I'll be supporting both of the names that have been put forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hall, for the captivating story behind the names. It was very interesting. I didn't know that. I would like to take this opportunity to encourage the community members to comment and put forward any suggestions towards the names the council has proposed. Like I said before, I was sorry to see, while I didn't take any part in the place name committee, I was sorry to see it disbanded. It seemed like a nice little committee for the community to participate in and to suggest the names. So hopefully in this consultation, there will be some participation from the community. Other than that, I'm just happy to vote as recommended. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will, on balance, vote for this to go out for consultation. I, much like the other councillors, am all in on Elaine Mitchell Park. It is very appropriate. I'm a little on the fence on Brigade Park. But having said that, let's put it out to the community and see what they think. Maybe they can come up with some other suggestions that may be possibly more appropriate. I understand that it is a CFA-themed road naming structure in the area, but having said that, the blandness not necessarily is an issue for me, other than the fact that down the track, Brigade will tend to be a bit generic. So perhaps, again, on balance, I will vote for it today, but I think it would be good if we could get some more suggestions from the public on this, and I hope to hear some. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall to close. No? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is item 8.7, Albury Wodonga Hospital Advocacy. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain. As recommended, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain.
The continuing saga of the Albury Wodonga Hospital. We're not going to stop. We need to continue to advocate. We need to report the notes on what we've done. We need to talk about what's happened with the advocacy so far. This is basically a report on what we've been doing and where we're getting to. We're not going to back off. We can't afford to. The people of this town and the people of this region need us to keep pushing for them. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is the most important thing we do, and it's not even our decision. If we haven't got health, we haven't got much. And at the moment, we seem to be getting shortchanged from both ends and both areas. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are working very hard to try and get this right. And I think the least we can do is support them and advocate as hard as we possibly can. I think it's been a good thing to get Albury at least on board on the stuff that they've been able to agree with us on. And hopefully it will become self-evident with what we're trying to say once the evidence comes back in. The trouble is getting that evidence from governments on both sides. So we'll keep pushing, keep trying. it'll be interesting to see. I know there is a forum next month over in the Cube, and I'm glad to see that Wodonga Council has supported that forum by supplying the Cube to allow them to have it. And I'll certainly be there, and I hope to see a number of the people of Albury, Wodonga and the surrounding areas there to have their say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall.
Yes, again, it's a never-ending saga with this hospital, but we've got to keep going. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Mayor and the CEO for making the trip to Melbourne to speak with the Minister on our behalf. It's much appreciated. It's a long way to go, I think, for a half-an-hour meeting, and I thank them for that. The Mayor's minutes provided in the report are detailed, but sadly don't give us much in response. I would love dearly to get the information provided to the Minister that was mentioned during the discussions that had the council and the community are not aware of. It could provide us with a better understanding on the decisions made around the hospital. Funnily enough, in today's paper, Mail, the Minister for Housing announced the construction of an extra 30,700 new houses to be provided by the state government in the northeast region over the next 25 years. 14,400 are allocated for Wodonga. With the extra new houses comes extra population, and the pressures on our vital infrastructure will be felt and needed, and will be needed to be provided. So ironically, here we are as a council and community advocating for a new single-site hospital that will significantly increase, that we need to significantly increase beds and the health service for our region going forward, but we are being largely overlooked and ignored. How can you look at even increasing our population without the desperately needed infrastructure that needs to go with a population of such increase? A new hospital health service that can provide the community needs to be top priority, and in my opinion is short-sighted and could be seen to be disrespectful to our community and region for announcing these houses but without giving us the benefit of putting that more money or looking at our concerns over our health issues in this community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chamberlain, question?
Would it be possible for yourself or the CEO to address the meeting that you had with Minister Thomas and give us a quick précis? I know that is in the minutes, but I think it would be far better coming word of mouth to let us know exactly what happened in that meeting as much as you possibly can. And while I'm at it, I may move to suspend standing orders to allow you to give it an effective time.
So do I take that as a motion to
suspend standing orders?
Don't need a second for a procedural motion, do I? Put the motion to all those in favour. Okay, standing orders are suspended. To answer the question, and we might do a tag exercise. The meeting with the Minister was half an hour long, and it was kept pretty much to time because we were one of a number of people that were meeting with the Minister on the day, and it was probably only fair that we didn't encroach on other people's times. During the discussion, we acknowledged that there's a whole range of issues that the Minister's facing in regard to the hospital, not least of which is the cost escalation in the construction industry. We recognise that what that is doing is diluting the ability for the project to deliver those things that were understood to be promised in the original notice, so the original release that was made by the two premiers. We talked about other cost implications such as the geotechnical issues on the site and what that, without talking about cost detail, but talking about the probability that that's going to increase cost to get out of the ground. We spoke about that. We spoke about the access issues with traffic and so on around the location. We spoke about constrained infrastructure. We spoke about Barella Road. We spoke about the freeway interchange. We spoke about Keene Street. We spoke about East Street intersections. We also spoke about water and sewer constraints and the need for a significant level of augmentation to make the current site capable of dealing with the growth that is necessary in the hospital. Even if it doesn't come as part of this project or the stage that gets done, it isn't something that simply can be just done on that site, and it doesn't look too good into the future. We explained all that sort of stuff. We talked about Health Infrastructure New South Wales and the methodologies that are being applied to clinical services planning, and in the parlance of the minister, value management, which to me means reducing what you can provide for the money available to match the money available. We spoke about those issues, and the minister agreed that there's been a couple of rounds of value management in the project, and Health Infrastructure New South Wales have gone to the New South Wales model, which is an 8 to 10 year plan, whereas the Victorian clinical services planning generally goes to a 15-year plan. Those things all reduce what is projected to be needed. The more you reduce the time frame, the more you reduce what is available to be done under the clinical services plan. We also raised the issues about how the current project doesn't actually support a single site hospital with all of the acute and subacute services on the one site. The minister has said that there will be things that will remain or be shifted to Wodonga Hospital, but all acute services will be on one site. The minister has reinforced that point of view. With the value management that's going on, I find that extraordinarily hard to accept, because I don't believe in the circumstances we find ourselves in, that the amount of money that's available can actually achieve that. And we've been told quite clearly there is no money for further stages. We talked about the governance. First, we talked about the master plan and the site constraints that come out of that. We spoke about the master plan that was released on the 29th of February, which was the day before our health summit. That master plan shows that the existing site cannot contain all of the things associated with health services or with our health service that need to be on that site, and it acknowledges that other premises will be purchased and incorporated into the hospital project, and those premises aren't just abutting, they're across Barella Road, they're across Keene Street, and they're across East Street. So that's an admission in my observation that the site isn't suitable to accommodate the hospital needs. The master plan also suggests that the most recent ED would need to be removed as a part of the ongoing projects. Now, the minister has come out quite clearly and said to us, no, that information that we've got is not correct, and that the ED is not going to be demolished. And we can only take the minister at a word on that. We brought up issues with the opportunities for higher education and training of the military medics as an intrinsic part of our hospital, so that we get the benefits of being able to educate various different aspects, or the whole range of medical professionals and allied services, medical services people, as well as training the military medics, which at the moment, all military medics in Australia are trained at Bandiana. and we can see a huge opportunity with that as a resource to Albury Wodonga Health, and huge opportunity for those medics being trained to get serious, genuine, real experience in providing medical services, whereas at the moment it's more theoretical until they get out in the field somewhere. So we've suggested that should be incorporated, and that should be a part of the process that heads to the Commonwealth Government to try and get involvement with the Commonwealth Government into this health service. This health service is a health service which is very unique because it crosses the state border, and it serves a significant 300,000 people across the border. We're seeing all the different things that are happening in other hospitals. And the Minister did mention things that were to happen with utilisation of beds that might be underutilised in different existing rural hospitals. The other thing we raised was to try and get a tripartite agreement for a management structure to oversee the entire regional health service. So it's not that each of the individual health services might be amalgamated into one big health service. That's not the proposition, although if that was what was found to be the answer, then so be it. But that's not the answer, not the proposition we make. We're looking to see that we can get an integrated health service and utilise all of the health services that are existing across our region for betterment of our people and our health service. We spoke to the Minister about possible alternative sites to the existing site, and we made it very clear that there is at least one reasonable site in New South Wales and at least one reasonable site in Victoria. We put it to the Minister that the site on Bandiana Link is a very good site, but we also said we don't necessarily see it as a problem if the hospital is located in New South Wales, so long as the site selection is done and based on appropriate and honest merit. The one thing that the Minister suggested to us was that some of the information that we have, which has led to our conclusions, is incorrect and not comprehensive, and we've asked the Minister to provide us updated information that will clarify those things for us. And we look forward to receiving that information in due course. I think that's probably covered most of it. There's a range of other things in relation to the hospital that are emerging that are not connected to the meeting with the Minister or not directly connected to it. And those things come about through the Hume region planning, which has not been released. The Minister did make reference to the fact that some of this stuff's going on and that there are planning exercise is happening in relation to Wodonga Hospital, if that's started recently, which I see that as being difficult. That really needs to be a known outcome to be able to contribute to the planning that is allegedly still going on with the Albury Hospital site. So there's some inconsistencies there that I find hard to reconcile. But we have things like the knowledge now that Mansfield Hospital has been subjected to an amalgamation issue, and it's not the only one, and there's a number of other hospitals that we believe are being put under financial constraint, and the probability is that financial constraint, although we recognise that Victorian state government budgets are very, very tight, we do think that there are ways of allocating priorities differently so that health services aren't the ones that get cut. Mansfield is part of our region, whether people see that or not. Mansfield falls into the 300,000 catchment. There are people that come from Mansfield, there's people that come from all over the place, Deniliquin, Tumut, Omeo even, on the other side of the divide, that come to Albury Wodonga for specialist medical services. That all fits into and falls into the circle of influence of Albury Wodonga Health. So, in essence, we will continue to pursue the methodologies and the approach we've got going. We are meeting with our local Commonwealth parliamentarians to try and get them to open the door to meetings with the relevant ministers in Canberra, so that we can try and continue the dialogue to get an appropriate outcome and an appropriate governance and management structure set up to ensure that we end up with the best health service and the health service that we actually deserve here. This is not something that we will give up on lightly. We recognise that some of the processes that have been happening in recent times with this project are confusing, to say the least, because it just doesn't add up that we're going to get anything close to the service that we deserve for the money that's been put on the table, and given the circumstances, particularly those circumstances that make the current site essentially untenable. And we need to push that envelope further, and we need to try and keep driving this agenda to get the outcome that this community deserves. I think that's probably covered most of it. Other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for this comprehensive report. It sounds like you've used your short 30 minutes very well and mentioned a lot of things. Thank you for providing the written report as well, and of course for taking time to drive, 3.5 hours each way. Hopefully there will some utility will come out of it. A lot has been said in this meeting and over the course of a few days about our efforts and why the Greenfield Site Hospital is required. And I would like to reiterate once again that it is first and foremost important for taking care of the local people, not Wodonga local, but a big area local, foregoing the opportunity of a Greenfield Site Hospital here somewhere is also foregoing the opportunity for the whole country with the Bandiana location training of military medics. There are a lot of opportunities that exist here, not just for us locals, but for people from all over the state and New South Wales and the country at large that really is silly to overlook. So I hope that your efforts, maybe your efforts to go to Canberra will bring something. So I will just continue to live on hope and work and fight towards it. And it's great to have the a huge community support and the community groups working in parallel with us. Just as Councillor Chamberlain has mentioned already, on the 7th of July, we all, at 3 p.m., we all have it in our calendars. The forum at the Cube, the council is providing the venue and the community is running the forum. I hope to see a lot of people present here tonight and a lot of other people from the community and from medical profession there. And we will just keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. There's a couple of things I'll add. The other thing, I'd acknowledge the cross-border commissioners and their efforts in relation to this. I understand they have some reasonably difficult constraints on the way they go about this sort of thing. And I think the job that they're doing to support our endeavours to make connections is very good. We will be meeting with the cross-border commissioners in Canberra next week or 2 weeks, and a group of Commonwealth politicians that they've managed to pull together, and state, I think, as well. So that's good. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, just before we come out of standing orders, and I've got a couple of little things just to add. Anyone who's got this agenda, and I ask anyone who's watching to have a look at our agenda and have a look at the document on page 97 and 98 of that agenda, which is the document produced by the 2C1C, as in two cities, one community. It's endorsed by the Mayor of Albury, the Mayor of Wodonga and the two CEOs. There are some things that obviously we disagree with Albury Council on this subject, but it is great to see that we could bring them to the table because they want the best health outcomes for their people too. So this is a document that isn't comprehensive in what we think is appropriate, but it does outline the shortcomings of what they're trying to deliver. The obvious stuff is on the bottom of page 97, where you look at ED presentations, which is emergency presentations of $3,000 more than Ballarat or Bendigo, 3,000 people, sorry. We've got births very similar to Ballarat and Bendigo, and yet we're 400 beds down on either of those places. We've got less than half the beds for the same amount of presentations. We are absolutely getting shortchanged. It's sad to say, but I've seen over a number of years that the whole idea of the cross-border health agreement in Albury-Wodonga Health was to improve efficiency and improve outcomes and get better value for money for people for our health outcomes around the Albury-Wodonga and surrounding regions. Unfortunately, governments of every colour have taken the opportunity to shortchange us on this stuff. They use that border as an excuse to not put the money in they would normally do so. And this is another example of exactly that. This is why we need to push hard on this and keep pushing hard on this. And if the minister gets upset, walks down the hall and upsets another minister about what Wodonga Council does that they don't like, so be it. We need to push for our people of Albury-Wodonga and the surrounding areas. Those numbers don't lie. We've got to keep going. Thank you.
Councillor Hall? No. There's probably quite a lot more that we could go on with about all this. I guess the bottom line is I encourage the community to get behind this whole effort that we're putting in place. The Minister has made it abundantly clear to us that the project will continue and the plans that are in train, and they are still being done, and the value management circle is still going on, that project is going to happen. The Minister has made it quite clear to us that we can expect it to be delivered. The only problem is we don't know what's being delivered. We put it to the Minister that the project should be suspended and that we should look at all the other options and look at the greenfield possibilities and look at the constraints that are caused by off-site costs that are associated with this that have not been funded, and they are substantial costs. The costs of upgrading Barella Road, the costs of dealing with the congestion at the freeway interchange, the costs of dealing with augmentation of water and sewer, the costs of dealing with roundabouts at Keene Street and upgrades at East Street are all things that are not costed in this project at this particular point in time. Now, one might say that some of those things added together, or perhaps all of those things added together, might exceed the amount of money that's been allocated for the hospital project. It's not been costed, so we don't know that, but it will be substantially expensive to do those things that will need to be done to make the project work at this particular location. So we tried to offer the opportunity for the Minister to suspend the project, and the Minister declined that invitation and made it quite clear that the government is going to deliver what they're proceeding with. The only thing is we don't know what that is yet. Can I have a motion to... Councillor Chamberlain, motion to resume. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Any other councillors wish to speak on the motion? No. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Yeah, in closing, I think a lot's been said. As I intimated quietly while the Mayor was speaking, we could talk about this all night, we could talk about this all week. It's that important. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Mayor and the CEO for representing the people of Wodonga and the surrounding areas in the Minister's office. I'm sure it was an uncomfortable meeting, but sometimes uncomfortable meetings have to be had. I'd like to thank Albury City. As I said, there's some things we absolutely don't agree on, but having said that, at least we've managed to get them to the table with us and work on the stuff we do agree on, and they want the best health outcomes for their people as well. 90% of what we talk about, they agree with us 100%. So we've got to push that barrow, and that's the only way that we're going to be able to get things like the federal government involved with the military stuff and some of the education stuff, which has the potential to give us the hospital we deserve. So again, I want to thank everyone involved, and I want to thank the community groups, including Better Border Health, representative of which is in the gallery tonight, who've done an excellent job of advocating on the community's behalf. It has shown that this is not just a council-driven thing, it's not a political-driven thing, it's people from across the board who are talking about a health thing, and this is what we need to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Reports for noting, there aren't any. Reports for information, the record of councillor meetings. Any matters to raise? No. Decisions register, any matters to raise? 10.3 Audit and Risk Committee, Councillor Quilty.
Yeah, I remember. Thank you. So there are two items in reports for information regarding Audit and Risk Committee. There is the mid-year report for 6 months, and there is the latest Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes. The one question I asked and was going to talk to in relation to the mid-year report, the section which is allocated to forward work program planning. If anybody has been paying attention, that section is empty. The reason, and this is the section where the internal audits that are planned to be happening are listed. This section is at the moment empty because of the review. The Audit and Risk Committee agreed to have this plan reviewed, and currently there is assurance mapping program in progress. In time, while having internal audit and especially external internal audit adds value, it is an expensive exercise, and the review serves the purpose of making sure all risks are identified and addressed, but the most pressing and current ones are addressed through the outsourced internal audit. So it's not empty by mistake, it's empty because it would be misleading to put something into there while the forward work program is under review. And item 10.4 is the minutes for the last meeting. Just as I mentioned, the items we looked at earlier today, the Audit and Risk Committee Charter and the Internal Audit Charter were discussed during that meeting, along with a number of other things. So if anyone is interested in a little bit more detail, I invite you to have a look at that. And possibly, if you are that interested, contact myself or Councillor Chamberlain for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Other councillors? Notice of motion, there are none. Anybody with general business? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I've got a couple of items of general business tonight. The first one's the positive one, if you like. It was my pleasure to attend a bit of a RevHead show. The HSV Fest, it was held in Wodonga there a week or so ago at our exhibition centre, where the Holden people and the RevHeads and the Oily Rag people had a wonderful time running cars on the dyno and showing off their pride and joy. So it was a great event. It was a good event for people to come in from all areas. It was nowhere near as big as Chrysler's on the Murray, but then let's be honest, nothing is. But it still was a fantastic event, and they chose Wodonga to come and hold it, which was great for our city. On a slightly more sombre note, I will note the passing in the last month. In fact, the first one was Lou Lieberman, who passed a couple of days before our last council meeting, but the appropriateness of notifying the public in this forum was not correct, given the fact the family at that stage hadn't announced it. Obviously, Lou Lieberman has been a massive part of the Wodonga and Benambra and Indi in both state and federal politics, and he was a giant of a man in more than one fashion. He was a very large physical presence, and he was a very large political and honesty presence, let's be honest. He really was a wonderful person. I also note, sadly, that another member of the Wodonga community who had provided a lot through social clubs and through his work in over previous decades was Ken Hartwig, who passed away last week. Again, sad to lose these people. They are icons of Wodonga. And the third one, and probably the big one as far as we're concerned, gentleman whose picture is on the wall up here, Councillor Les Boyes, two-time mayor and city councillor for a couple of decades. Again, an amazing person and a huge loss to our community. So I just wanted to note those passings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Any other councillors? I'll just note that the CEO and I attended a Regional Cities Victoria meeting in Shepparton Wednesday, Thursday last week, and had normal conversations over a whole range of things. The Minister for Local Government attended briefly in the morning and spoke to the group, and we had a presentation from an ABC journalist about the different things that are going on in the political environment at the moment across the state. We spoke about a range of other housekeeping type things and ongoing matters for Regional Cities Victoria over the next 4 years or so, and lining things up for the new councils when they come on deck. That pretty well sums it up, really. There is no urgent late business. Next item on the agenda is item 14, confidential business, of which there are a number of matters to deal with. So can I have a motion to close the meeting? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Hall. Put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. welcome back from the confidential part of our council meeting. Can I have a motion to adopt the in-camera recommendations? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Hall, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Um, 16.3 is public release of information, and as I was referring to the CEO in Shepparton at our RCV meeting the other day, I should refer to him as a different name. Grandpa? Mr. CEO, please read the public release.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to item 14.2, pricing schedule logic land sales, the public component of the resolution is the council adopts the revised logic pricing schedule for the land sales at Logic Industrial Estate, and the logic pricing schedule be reviewed no later than the 30th of June 2025, and the fee structure for sales commissions paid to Knight Frank be revised as follows: 0 to 5 hectares, 2% GST inclusive; 5 to 10 hectares, 1.85% GST inclusive; 10 to 30 hectares, 1.8% GST inclusive; and 30 plus hectares, 1.75% GST inclusive. In relation to item 14.3, termination of lease, Wodonga Solar Power, the public component of the resolution is that council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to engage its legal advisors to issue a statutory demand to Wodonga Solar Power Proprietary Limited for the recovery of its outstanding lease payments to the council. Once done at the expiry of the statutory demand without a successful outcome for council, a further report with options be presented to the council for consideration. Item 14.3, proposed land sale at Logic Tyre Pyrolysis Plant. The public component of the resolution of council is that, subject to a heads of agreement being entered into, generally in accordance with the key terms, Wodonga Council gives notice under section 114 of the Local Government Act 2020 that it intends to sell the land as described as attachment 2, being a proportion of lot 15 on PS 901711S, located adjacent to Roche Drive, Barnawatha North, Logic, at the purchase price determined by a land sales rate of $50 per square metre plus GST. 2, that the public notice stipulate that persons may make a submission in respect to the proposal in accordance with the council's community engagement policy, and that written submissions must be received no later than the date that is at least 21 days after the publication of the notice. The council receive a further report upon completion of the public consultation period to determine whether to proceed with the sale or not. I did, yes. In relation to 14.5, proposed land sales at Logic Roche Drive, there's 2 components of the public resolution for this matter. For Vic Cairns Australia Proprietary Limited, that is subject to a heads of agreement being entered into and generally in accordance with the key terms, Wodonga Council gives notice under section 114 of the Local Government Act 2020 that it intends to sell land as described at attachment 1, being a proportion of lot 15 PS 901711S, located adjacent to Roche Drive, Barnawatha North, Logic, to Vic Cairns Australia Proprietary Limited or a related entity purchaser at the purchase price determined by a land sales rate of $80 per square metre plus GST. 2, that the public notice stipulates that the persons make a submission in respect to the proposal in accordance with Council's community engagement policy, and that written submissions must be received no later than the date that is at least 21 days after publication of the public notice. That the Council receives a further report upon completion of the public consultation period to determine whether to proceed with the sale or not. In relation to Killen Trucking for the same item, that subject to a heads of agreement being entered into and generally in accordance with the key terms, Wodonga Council gives notice under section 114 of the Local Government Act 2020 that intends to sell land as described as Attachment 1, being a proportion of Lot 15 on PS 901-711S, located adjacent to Roche Drive, Barnawatha North Logic, to Killen Trucking Company or related entity, purchaser, at the purchase price determined by a land sales rate of $70 per square metre plus GST, that the public notice that the persons may make a submission in respect to the proposal in accordance with the Council's community engagement policy, and written submissions must be received no later than a date that is at least 20 days after the publication of the notice. 3, that the Council receives a further report upon completion of the public consultation period to determine whether to proceed with the sale or not. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. There being no further business, close the meeting at 7:40.